Alright, you beautiful humans. I will be doing a full office tour as soon as I refinish the flooring in here, but we've got enough to tackle right now with the desk setup, or rather, both of the desks in this studio. We'll start off with this adjustable work table from Husky, and this is often what you'll see in my talking head shots. And one of my favorite features of this table is that it's on wheels, which allows me to move into the natural light and wishing I was outside. But if I do need to get that top-down shot in my talking head videos, I can easily pivot it over into the A-roll. One of the best investments I've ever made was the Embody chair by Herman Miller, and we've been going strong for over a decade at this point. The Embody has a very humanistic design with its central spine and those flexible ribs, which allows me to position myself in a way that's in line with my own natural curve and helps me maintain a neutral posture while at the same time feeling like a transformer. That is, if being a chair transformer has any level of cool factor of utility of fighting off Dr. Kyphosis when typing out these notes for this video. The hand crank height adjustment is not for the weak. Well, it does have really smooth action, so you don't actually have to be that strong. Just make sure to even out your reps on each side when you're raising or lowering it. Whether it's a push day or a pull day, it could be a small workout. On the desk, you'll either find my MacBook Pro or the M1 MacBook Air. And there's a little nostalgia incorporated into this one with one of the original Bluetooth chiclet style keyboards from Apple, and likely only available on some obscure website like eBay. My go-to mouse when getting things done is likely no surprise with the MX Master 3 that rests on top of this leather mouse pad from Grovemade, and it offers some subtle contrast with a small pop of color on this wood finish. Over to my left, I have my trusty M1 iPad Pro, because I paid an obscene amount of money for it, and aside from it looking stunning up there on that magnetic stand from Pitaka, it really is my primary device for research and taking notes, because it's nothing but the best around here for taking notes on a device that's more than capable of so much more. But why bother? And if you're wondering about the microphone, which is my broadcast setup from Samsung, this is the Q9U. Now the headliner of the show is the same DIY desk setup from IKEA that I've been rocking for a while, but we've got a few additions to discuss because this is where the heavy lifting in my day-to-day happens, and yes, I love hanging out in the kitchen, so I decided to bring this same feel right from IKEA's kitchen department. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of potential when you have cabinets to keep things more organized and everything in its place. Or really, just close the door on that hot mess where my network-attached storage from Synology likes to do all of its archiving. And whether filming in my studio or needing to grab specific gear for a project outside, I do try to keep a rhythm to the chaos that is when filming with multiple pieces of gear and all of those little pieces that help bring it all together. And no, it is not always this immaculate, but after every shoot, I do make an effort to put all of the cables back in their sleeves and all of the tools and accessories back in their home with a Husky. Now center stage here is the 34-inch Ultrawide from ViewSonic, and as a creative professional, this has been a great choice for me this past year with its color accuracy for the videos I'm producing, and it's what I'm finding in the final product online. Barring of course the usual compression, it does end up how I also see it on the monitor in the edit. I appreciate that I can store custom calibrated settings within the monitor itself, and there are quite a few manual options that I have control over through the on-screen display buttons. And one of the biggest checkboxes here is that I can connect it to my 14-inch MacBook Pro, keeping it charged and allowing the monitor to become an additional hub for all the other peripherals and external SSDs with just one USB Type-C cable that communicates with the many that I have organized in this adjustable stand from AVLT that also just so happens to have additional USB-A ports if by chance I just want to go all out on my I/O. But moving back to the M1 Max 14-inch MacBook Pro, this is the model with a 32-core GPU, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 1TB internal drive that I've been testing. On the few occasions I may want to work in clamshell mode, I can definitely take advantage of this maple laptop stand from Grovemade that also provides merino wool for the base of the chassis, and it doesn't impede the intake vents to keep that airflow on the move. But with that liquid Retina XDR display, do I really want to keep it in clamshell mode? It really is hard to keep my eyes off of this one, But as much as I do like my ultra-wide, I also appreciate having another color-accurate monitor to review my footage. As far as rough cuts in my editor, I find the screen real estate on the 14-inch to be just fine, but there of course is a big advantage of working with multiple displays. Now if you've been here since the M1 Mac Mini, there is no reason to worry because that thermal management is so good it can fit right here in this vented server drawer under the desktop, and I do still use it. Also residing on each side of the ultrawide placed on these SoundRise Pro monitor stands are the Yamaha HS5 studio monitors that I use for many of my video edits and my audio work. With the ability to manually make adjustments with the room control functionality, this makes it even easier to adapt to the acoustics of this particular room. I have these connected via TRS cables from the Mo2 M2 audio interface, which I reviewed on the channel, and they're connected into the back of each monitor via XLR. However, as clean a sound as I can get out of those monitors, I still rely heavily on my DT770 Pros from Beyerdynamic that don't just look stunning on this hardwood stand from Grovemade with tan leather on each side to provide protection and a bit of contrast, but these over-the-ear monitors allow me an additional peek at some of the nuance I'm looking for in a vocal track. And they can also be conveniently plugged into the Mo2 M2 as well, because at 250 ohms, these aren't your average headphones you can plug into a smartphone. But who's able to do that these days anyway? And speaking of smartphones, I do carry multiple handsets around here, which is an occupational hazard being a creator in the tech space. But I usually have an iPhone in hand, and the MagSafe stand also from Grovemade not only captures the eye, but it also captures the phone to get a little juice from time to time. This makes it a great parking spot for when I need to get that deep work done, no matter the time or the project itself. Or if I just want to take a break and do a little testing just to make sure I haven't improved at all in my extensive gaming acumen. So when I'm not standing, you might be wondering about what I've been hanging my tuchus on. And this standing stool from Verrier Move keeps things interesting, just as much as my LED light strip behind the desktop when I just need to change up the mood keeps things interesting, and making those adjustments from my phone to get it dialed in for just the right look. Having this workspace has been quite an investment, and not something that I've achieved overnight. If you've been following me for a while, then you know it's taken me years, and I'm continuing to carefully curate each piece to this space to find the right balance of form and function. And for all of you out there, I'd love to know about some of the pieces in your studio. And if you're so inclined to share any photos on Twitter, I'd love to take a look on how your space is evolving. I really appreciate your time here today. Keep rocking those faces and doing those things that matter, and I'll see you right back here when I have my updated studio reveal coming up very soon.